Hello, everybody. My name is Samantha Hamilton. I am 1/4 of a Queen's Narrative. We're so excited today to be here at Aceville Mall for the Kwanzaa pop-up mall experience, where we have a great workshop for you today to talk about purpose. But we first want to let you know a little bit more about a Queen's Narrative, who we are, what we do, and why do we love the work that we do so much. So a Queen's Narrative is a company that uses narrative power to help women find purpose in themselves. So narrative is the stories that we have for ourselves. We can see that through audibles, visuals, pictures, all types of things. Power is what we innately have, but we want to use narrative power to change the dynamics of what women can see themselves being in the world today. So we hope to do workshops more like this around narrative power and how it helps us share a little bit of piece of ourselves with other people so that they can find the power in themselves to do anything possible. So I believe narrative power is your truth. The more that you can tell your truth to others, the more you find commonality in each other. And your truth also ignites sparks in other people, but it also liberates you. So narrative to me is power that ignites and liberates your freedom. So I'm going to pass it on to Amani so that she can introduce herself.
Awesome. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Sam, for the introduction. So my name is Amani. I'm a community engagement facilitator for Boston Medical Center right now. And so for me, what purpose is, and not what purpose is, but what the idea of a Queen's Narrative and the fact that we should have our own narrative is that we are individuals with unique experiences going through life very differently. And only we can explain how we see the world through our perspective from ourselves. And so that's why it's important to have your own narrative and to be able to speak your narrative and use your narrative power in any way you want. So I'll pass it to Whitney now.
Hi, I am Whitney Dodds. I am the founder of Wellness for the Culture. That's my main job when I'm not here with them. So I like to say that narrative power is the ability to control. Your narrative is a superpower. And having that is important because the narratives previously we know were told by the people that were in control. And so to take back is to take back a little bit of your power. And every time we do that and we stand in our truth, history is made.
Thank you.
And I'm swinging it over to Cherie.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Cherie Biggs. I am a case specialist for the Hampton Probate Courts. What I think, from my perspective, a Queen's Narrative is a great platform for me as a woman to identify who I am and make sure that when I am speaking from my perspective, it's not being told from a third party's point of view. A lot of times our narratives are always told from someone else or people are telling you what your narrative is. It's so important that even as a woman, once you're going through the process and the changes of life, that you know who you are and identify with who you are and then continue to make sure that who you are doesn't get changed by your experiences or the people that's surrounding by you. So again, as everyone has said, narrative is power. What you speak is power. So it's always important to control the narrative of what others think of you or what your life looks like. I pass it back on to Sam.
Thank you, everyone. So I'm going to kind of give a brief synopsis of what we're doing today. We're going to be exploring Nia, and we're using the concept of defining Nia, which is purpose in Swahili, in the terms of using a feminine gender. So we're going to give her a gender identity of he, she, her, hers. We want to explore the relationship we have with her, and we're going to go through some phases of thinking about that. So I'm going to pass it to Amani to kind of just walk us through what we're going to be talking about today, and for each of us to take a piece of it to share with you all.
Thank you for that, Sam. So really just, let's take a step back into how we got here and thinking about the timing of the ask for us to present on purpose is that, as a Queen's Narrative, we were already meeting to think about how can we reconnect with the young queens who are the target audience of our group, and teaching them about their narrative as they kind of go through life in their teenage years. And so with the pandemic and everything happening and really finishing up our session back in March with the young girls, there was just a large disconnect with the last 9 months with the pandemic. And so we were just reconnecting with ourselves and just thinking about how we wanted to reconnect with the community and reaching out to them. And Tiffany came with this ask, and it was really perfect. And so we ourselves started thinking about, what does purpose mean to us? And so we each asked ourselves that question. and really came up with this idea, and what we'll talk about throughout this presentation is how purpose goes through these cycles or these phases, and that these cycles is not a linear process. It's not a linear process, but you're going to go through these different phases at different times in your life, and you may revisit these stages as well. And so, for me, I chose to talk about exploration, being the youngest one out of the group, and really being humbled to have the experience to sit amongst women who are a lot older than me, who have experienced experienced life a lot more than me. Not too much older. Whoa! Not too much older, but I will say. But what I will say, wise women, and Samantha at one point being a mentor to me. So for me, exploration and exploring your purpose is really just finding really what your sparks are. And your sparks necessarily aren't what your purpose is. And we were having this conversation yesterday, and Whitney's like, you need to watch Soul. And I know some of you have been watching Soul if you've got kids or not, or may have seen on social media kind of what people's reaction to the movie is. But the idea that you are born with purpose, and your sparks necessarily, so like what you're interested in, what you like to do necessarily isn't your purpose, but through your sparks, you can explore what your purpose is by your sparks, I guess, right? So think about the time where like you get totally lost and consumed in yourself, and the time has completely gone by, or things that bring you joy. If you're not really sure what your purpose is at this point, just to think about, like I said, what sparks your interest. And I think through that journey, and when you're in this exploration phase of what your purpose is, the idea of being open-minded is key. I think when you're closed-minded and you're fixed on one thing, like in the movie, right? He thought he was born to play piano, and when he died, he realized, like, wow, my life was meaningless, but I have to get back so I can participate in this show, and my life will be fulfilled. And through the journey, with the, I forget the soul, who didn't really feel like 22. Through the journey with 22, he realized, like, wow, my purpose really isn't to play piano, but my purpose is to just live, and that people are born with purpose. And through that exploration, I just say that, be mindful, be open-minded when you're in the exploration process. And after exploration, right, you've kind of identified what you like to do, what you don't like. You're kind of discovering yourself. And then from that, you can manifest what your purpose is. And I think Cherie's going to talk a little more about what manifesting your purpose is after you've kind of you've been open-minded, you know what you like, you know what you don't like, and kind of just solidifying it.
Mm-hmm. Yes, so I'm going to pass it to Cherie, but the cycle that we created was exploration, manifestation, foster and develop, and then repurposing. And then again, like Amani said, it's cyclical. It goes around in cycles. So you might be at different phases in your life where you're saying, I am really just at the beginning stage of figuring out who I am, or I'm at the stage that what I was doing is not fulfilling for me, so I have to start over. So we could be at any point in this cyclical cycle, but it's never ending. So you do have a purpose, and it's always important to think that you're going to come back to it at some point. And we are giving you examples of some ways you can do that. There's other ways in which people explore their purpose through intentional living, through spiritual journeys. But we're kind of just sharing a little tidbit so that you can add to whatever you're already doing to access that. So I'm going to pass it to Sheree to explain more.
Well, great points, ladies. So going into manifestation, my first introduction to manifestation was being Mary Jane. Not sure if you remember the show on BET. It was a great coming of age kind of driven black woman who was just doing her thing, and she was messy. But I mean, it was great to see her so vulnerable with herself, and you couldn't tell her what she wasn't, because she kind of in some essence knew who she was, but it was like an identity crisis, because her life was caught up in a plan. Her life was caught up in a man. Her life was caught up in what she expected life to look like. So when life didn't turn out to be that way, it kind of just drove her down a tunnel of just dysfunction. So how much of us have lived that life in some aspect of it, So I saw her put the Post-its on, and I was like, that's cool. I never thought you are beautiful in my bathroom mirror. Probably those words just kind of pour into you every single day when you're seeing those little stickies. That was my first introduction to manifestation, and also people make it very spiritual. So it's so important that you understand that manifestation is a call to action, and it's through words. At some point I'm going to continue to let you know how you can continue the process of manifestation using your 5 senses, which is seeing, hearing, touching, smelling, and tasting. It sounds a little weird, but it makes sense to me. So it's first thing, you need to stop speaking and dwelling in lack. I think it's so important when you're manifesting that you are not thinking about the past. It's so important for us to stop thinking about what coulda, what I didn't do. No, when you're manifesting, you are setting the stage of going forward. So it's so important that, again, stop speaking in lack and living in the when, and just continue to do the work in action. So the first point I want you to see is that you have to see things. You have to envision what is it that you want, where you want to go. For example, you want to travel to Bali. It's a thing. It's a new big thing for our generation now, is to travel around the world, if you can use that as an example. So you want to travel. You're not thinking anything beyond that, but you want to travel more. You want to enjoy life more. So, you have to envision yourself at this point. This is a spark, the idea. I want to travel. But now you got to go research it. So going forward, you need to speak success into your daily life by reading books about traveling, or people who have traveled, or just listening to podcasts that motivates and inspires and keeps you accountable. And I'm going to talk about accountability a little bit more, which is so important in this process. Another stage is that you need to touch. And touching means transcribing. You need to put those words onto paper. Write it down and make it plain. I'm not going to cite no Bible scripture, but I'm just going to throw that out there. But it's so right. Write down the vision itself. So you have to transcribe it. So it's a new year, new me coming up. We're at that point. People mock it, but I think it's so important when people can say, "Hey, I need to restart. I need to recharge." So this is the point where you make your vision board. Make that vision board, make that to-do list, and have an execution date, have a deadline, and a progress track. I think it's so important that we just don't focus on the vision board and the checklist, because our minds look real cute. It look real cute in the closet.
In the glitter.
We put so much energy and time into it, but it's like, wait, do you have some form of execution date? Do you have a deadline? Who's keeping you accountable in this process? You know what I'm saying? So even if you put that on the vision board itself, that's so important, or get an accountability partner. I can say these ladies up here, we all serve each other well. We have a beautiful friendship between us all, and we all keep each other accountable at any little goals that we have in life. So I think it's so important to find yourself a circle, find yourself friends that are able to say, hey, you should be studying, or what about you said what you was going to do? Like, okay, next week Saturday, I'm going to catch up to you, But it's so important in this process, be intentional. It is so important to be intentional about every single thing that you do in life. Because, again, that spark may not be the purpose, okay? But this manifestation is the work aspect of it. So it may be leading you through the purpose. It may be traveling through the journey. It's like the road less taken. So everybody want to get to the destination, but you know what? Nobody wants to take stops. Life is about stops. It's about the detours. You don't have to ask for it. It's going to come real quick.
Yeah. And I think something to add to that too, Cherie, when you mentioned, right, we talk about the Swahili definition of what Nia is, and going back to, the idea of Kwanzaa and what these words really mean, and the root of that, and like you talk about us holding you accountable, is this sense of community and purpose in that, we are all here to help each other. And the idea that it takes a village is a thing, and that, it's more than just an individual who's going to make the change, but the idea of community and the collectiveness really is where power is as well.
Excellent point. I think it's so important that piggyback on that is that we need to make sure that we don't go this journey by ourselves. A lot of times I've seen something on Instagram where somebody was like, trauma is me saying I can do it by myself. And it's so true. I think a lot of times when we get disappointed in the process of journey and those detours in life, that you take on this level of independence. And how much of us as Black females, we love to gauge our independence. Like, that's just like my footing stool, in this process. Like, you are not going to take it. You're not going to tell me what to do. But sometimes it's okay. As Amani said, it's okay. This whole thing is about community. This whole thing is about being there for each other through the process. Doing that, stop and smell the roses. This is when you use your little smell sense. You know what I'm saying? Like, breathe. If the pandemic didn't teach you something about stop and be still when you want to go, learning how to stop enjoy the process of it. Enjoy your successes. Enjoy. Learn to pray. Learn to manifest. In this process, learn what silence sounds like. Learn what peace feels like. Yeah. We can be so in a to-do list and a check-in. I need to be here. I'm not here. Like, I need to be doing this. We're such a busy environment that we don't know how to stop.
Should I'm going to check in with you also. Is I think that when we are so goal-oriented so much that, like, even if there's like a disappointment, so today, we've manifested and I wrote it down, and today I was supposed to sign on the dotted line here, and then I didn't get it. And so that stop and check in with your body, and that smell and the roses part is like, okay, I didn't make it today. I'm still very motivated. I'm still checked in, and I, can go get some ice cream. Like, because today is still a good day, right? And like, that helps us regain and push to the next day, because if sometimes there will be disappointments along the line, and we are motivated and we have to keep that momentum, but take an inventory of the good things that happen along the way, and or for how many 3 other boxes that were checked right before, right? That gratitude is always important. Yeah,
that's true. That's so true, because I know even
I want the water. Yes, I do.
Even in the process of like smelling, I can tell you, everybody knows I love fitness. I'm a fitness instructor, and I teach spin. Like, I'm hard on myself. Like, when I tell you I'm so hard on myself, I'm so hard. But sometimes I have to tell myself, you know what? You are so much better when you stop and realize the progress that you've made, and stop worrying about the weight that you want to be, or the 10 pounds that's going to look on me on camera that I'm not really comfortable with, because I'm like, I'm not that big in real life. Why y'all making me look like Humpty Dumpty? Like, but it's that moment when you just stop, And lastly, it's so important to taste. Success, what success feels like? What success tastes like? When you're around people who are doing it. When you're around like-minded people, when you're around driven people. I'm sitting here with some driven, motivated, inspiring individuals that I know when we started the Queen's Narrative, I could not, in the name of Jesus, could have wrote a lesson plan. But I was forced out of my comfort zone. And I learned something from these women every single time. Because when I don't feel like I'm able to accomplish certain things, the way they maneuver through their lives and their profession continue to inspire me, and their level of consistency. It's so important that in this traveling lane that you be around the people and the environment in which you want to envision yourself. And people sometimes people are not going to make it with you, because sometime in that purpose of you trying to change your environment, people are stuck in where they're at and want to stay there.
That might not be their purpose.
It might not, exactly, but you have to learn how to maneuver that. Like, I hate it when people are like, some people are not going to make it there with you. Just because you get to a level of success or you're smelling success doesn't mean you have to leave everybody behind. You just have to learn how to navigate or narrate that relationship a little bit different. You don't need to just bleed people off when they're not on the same line or purpose as you, because it's not their purpose. But you have to learn how to navigate that in a sense where you cultivate the environment in which you're in, so people are able to step in it with you, or step when they're ready to go forward with it. So you know what? Now is the time to put to work. Repeat is needed. I just gave you a different view of what manifestation looks like to me. Again, this is the action part of finding purpose.
Absolutely.
This is the work that you put in. And Sam is going to go ahead and continue to let you know how do you foster purpose.
Thank you, Cherie. You did awesome. Yes. So everything that happens in the initial phase of finding your spark, finding that little thing that makes you excited, then taking the time to saying, hey, I want to call it out even more through manifestation, right? So if we go back to the relationship we have with Nia, we go through phases where we are just meeting her for the first time and she's sparking our interest. And then we want to spend more time with her. So we're trying to manifest the opportunity to be with her intentionally and on purpose. So then we get in a phase of like, okay, the example is if like we all can get the ring, but can we keep the husband? Can we keep that relationship going? What is it that we're doing to hold on to the people or hold on to this relationship of our purpose? And that comes to the point of fostering and developing. And that gets into the place, this is a long-term part of it. This is a long-term goal aspect of it, that you're in that cushiony, comfortable, great space, that you know what you are, you know what you're doing, you see it coming into fruition. The stuff that you visualize is becoming actualized through the weeks, the months that are coming along, but that doesn't come without effort. And the same thing you're doing in manifestation, you will continue to do to foster and develop. So I'm still visualizing, I'm still setting goals. So some of the things we can do could be on a weekly, monthly, and annual basis. So for me, on a weekly basis, recently due to the pandemic and due to all my family issues, I've started weekly Bible study with my family, my little sons and my older brother and my dad. We all come together and we have this conversation about God. And it's now a ritual. It's kind of like something that I put in my calendar now that grounds me. But in knowing this part of myself helps me find my purpose, and it helps strengthens me. On a monthly basis, I'm very avid about budgeting. Don't know me. I was an accounting major for my undergrad. I got my business degree, and then I got a psychology degree. I am not using any of my degrees. It's another thing to should know. Okay,
that is not your purpose.
But
They look good on the wall.
they all help me, though. They all help me. I layer on my business degree. I layer on my public health, my counseling degree, and I'm a program manager in public health. And all of this I use to do the work that I do, and also to extend to a Queen's narrative. I thought I knew where I was going to go, and then I said, intermediate accounting was like, hey, I don't even know this. I'm done, and I shifted direction.
Was purpose speaking to you?
It was just saying, I think this is illegal accounting. And I don't want to learn this part of it, so I'm just gonna just go to business in general. All right. So, but monthly, again, like I said, I like to budget. I like to look at my finances. I set monthly goals, and I check off boxes. But it also says, hey, these little milestones are for the bigger win. You know, my ultimate goal is to buy a new home in this coming year, to buy income property following that, to pay fully for a wedding cash. Like, yo, these goals they're not like secular small goals. These are heavy-weighted goals. But these heavy-weighted results come with small, ritualistic daily steps. So that means setting these healthy priorities that are good for you to get you to say, here are my small wins for my long-term win, for my long-term outcomes. So if you have that rapport, that good relationship with Nia, if you foster her, you nurture her, you cultivate her, you let her know she's a part of your life, then she will stay in that good place. Right. But we come to a point, you know, in our life where we got to recognize that if there's stuff that we can do that will deter our purpose from being manifested. And we got to be mindful of those things. So when we lose the sight of our purpose, we lose the sight of who we are and what we're trying to do. So again, the idea is to create rituals. The other thing is that there's a space where you can do like self-care. I think Whitney is all about self-care, self-check-in. Yes. You got to know what your body is telling you for you to tell people how you're feeling. But that self-check-in is important for you to like regroup and prioritize your energy. You can't run like rabid for the whole year. You got to put some self-care goals into it. And sometimes that self-care goal is to do something for yourself, do a staycation, vacation, something, affirm yourself. Again, the stuff that Cherie was talking about in manifestation, we continue in the foster and development stage.
I thought you was going to talk about the bougie vacation.
But
I like nice things.
If you set it aside, like you can do it. I'm not saying, hey, everybody does stuff within their own means, but they do it. So
I mean, you work hard, you play hard.
yes,
Exactly.
yes, and that helps you with that long-term win. You and Nia have to go on a vacation. You can't be working all the time. You got to take the time to enjoy the small successes for that long-term gain. But we want to share with you a video this is a different way to look at purpose. So I mentioned before, if your purpose was not manifested, if you sat in a space where you let it linger and you didn't put any effort into it, what could she look like, or what could she be like? So we want to show you a clip from Fences, and we're coining that Viola is our purpose speaking back to us in the worst way when we don't manifest who we are.
Listening to me, I'm trying to explain it to you the best way I know how. It's not easy for me to admit that I've been standing in the same place for 18 years.
Well, I've been standing with you. I've been right here with you, Troy. I got a life, too. I gave 18 years of my life to stand in the same spot as you. Don't you think I ever wanted other things? Don't you think I had dreams and hopes? What about my life? What about me? Don't you think it ever crossed my mind to want to know other men, that I wanted to lay up somewhere and forget about my responsibilities, that I wanted someone to make me laugh so I could feel good? You're not the only one who's got wants and needs, but I held on to you, Troy. I took all my feelings, my wants and needs and dreams, and I buried them inside you. I planted a seed and watched and prayed over. I planted myself inside you and waited to bloom. It didn't take me no 18 years to realize the soil was hard and rocky and it was never gonna bloom. But I held on to you, Troy. I held you tighter. You was my husband. I owed you everything I had, every part of me I could find to give you. And upstairs in that bedroom with the darkness falling in on me, I gave everything I had to try and erase the doubt that you wasn't the finest man in the world, and wherever you was going, I was going to be there with you because you was my husband. Because that's the only way I was going to survive as your wife. You're always talking about what you give and what you don't have to give. But you take too, Troy. You take and don't even know nobody's giving.
Yes.
Take and don't give. Troy, you say I take and don't
Troy, you heard me. I'm like,
God, don't you tell that lie.
So
Every time the chills.
it's like, okay, Viola is amazing.
First of all,
She
it's not
amazing.
provide, right?
Listen, nobody can cry like her. Nobody can give raw emotion like her.
Auntie.
Yes, but again, if your purpose could tell you, hey, what are you doing? Like, I'm here. And the other thing is, my purpose is for me and yours is for you. I can't take on what you want to do and manifest it. It's up to you to do that. I think Amani had this idea for a wine conversation. I was like, oh, Amani, this is so great. This is a great idea. And she's like, go ahead, do it, Sam. I was like, no, it ain't me.
That ain't my purpose.
It's your idea, and it's a beautiful idea. And you should definitely manifest it because you know exactly what it's supposed to look like. And she's hosted 2 beautiful events.
Right.
That was very successful. And she's going to do another one in the new year.
Yes.
So, but I could never do it the way she was intended on doing it because it was for her to do. But just to know that we have a purpose. And Les Brown, my last point is like Les Brown says, the richest places in the world are the graves and the cemeteries because that's where all our dreams die because those are people that have yet to manifest who they are. And, it's a crazy thing if we're going to live in this world and not have the opportunity to live our purpose. But, the other question is, do we all have a purpose and could our purpose leave us? And if you have to repurpose yourself, what would that look like? So I'm going to pass it on to Whitney to share some more.
Thanks, Sam.
Oh, thanks. That is awesome. And so I'm going to piggyback before I even get into the repurpose part and just say, even with if we're using Monty's event as an example to say that's not my purpose, Sam was noticeable to say, I'm going to take a step back because that's not where I'm at. That's your thing. I was pushing. I was like, I can write it out for you, Mommy. This is great. Let's go. And she was like, wait, relax. It's not even, I don't even like that color. I was like, oh, okay. But that's how, because as they say, we all feed off of each other and we see a good idea and woo, go. But no matter how many times I would have did it, in my head, it still could have never been the authentic truth of Monty's purpose. And so that leads me to think, like, you know, your purpose is always going to be just for you. And I have come through a lot to know that, like, I have these amazing ideas and these amazing sparks that come along. And, like, I know that at the end of it, my purpose is to help people, Black and brown people, access mental health. That's the end goal always. Everything I do, I'm pushing into that love that I have. And sometimes somebody will steal your stuff. And at the end of it, it won't ever be exactly what it's supposed to be, because it's not theirs. It's not for them. If it's for you and if it's for your purpose, it's yours.
Right.
Just to piggyback off of that, I was just visiting my cousin and she was talking about her idea about, you know, she's a life coach. And she was saying, like, through the process of becoming a life coach, she shared this little idea with the life coach that was mentoring her about her business. And this woman took her idea and put it out there.
Fired.
And I was like, wait a minute. But I had to stop and thinking like when Whitney was talking, like my skin was itching, because I was like, that's so true, because people can take yours, and what's not meant for them, they can't go so far. So you can steal someone's idea, but if it ain't your purpose, honey, you'll never light that fire. It will never manifest the way that the person who was supposed to bring it to life will. You know, that's so important. So listen, you can have an idea. It's just like you got 5 different things on the shelf. You know, like your idea is not necessarily better than the next person, but whatever you need to bring to life, if it's the same conditioner, so you're gonna get a target audience that's gonna like yours more than shea butter,
stay in your
because
lane.
it's what you are meant to do. So do it.
Exactly. Yep. Stay in your lane and keep your eyes. I always love this idea of the races. This analogy came a long time ago. Pretty sure my pastor said it, and if I don't shout her out, she gonna get me. So it was like she showed us this race, and like there was this woman, and they were running, and then the woman looks this way at the woman who's like 2 seconds behind her, and because she looked this way, see where she wasn't looking this way, and the woman shot past her.
Yeah.
So you have to pay attention, because as soon as you start diverting and self-comparison and all that stuff, remember what the focus is and your goal is, and try to stay on track. And I get confused all the time. I'm like, hey, right? And then I slow down, and then that self-comparison turns me out. Then I'm not fostering my purpose because I'm down and out. Then I lose my spark, and like, boom. So, okay. So then this is where the best part is the realignment, regrouping, repurposing. What do I think how like repurposing is can Nia leave? Like this idea, like we saw Vi, right? Like she said it all, and after that, I mean, I'd be like, all right, I'm out. I'm all set, right? But does our purpose ever leave us? Is it always there? Does it linger? Does it like where does it go? And I always say no. It's always innate, right? It's always inside of us, and I don't think we can go without it. And if we do, it's because we've ignored it or we've shelved it, right? We've put it over here, and we stopped catering to it. So I think about like 2020 itself, right? And all of us thought we had these great years. We were like, 2020 is the vision year. I'm ready to go, right? All these ideas, and then 2020 was like, psych. JK.
Or it said, you know what, if you really want to do it, I'm going to make it harder for you to do it. You have to be intentional.
You're going to be real strict about it, right? Like, absolutely. Thank you. But at the end of it, as we come and we're here, and some of us are dead inside, like we're done. We're physically, mentally, we're beat up. Right. Like, as a mental health therapist, while my practice has flourished, it's depressing at the same time, because the people I see and how they have experienced this world this year alone is very sad. And the beliefs that have come from it, the lack of control, that I failed, I don't have power, my resources, and all these things. And now you're here. You're in like this sunken place. And I'm going to go back to Soul. There was this like place that like
lost souls.
The lost souls. Yeah. Of the lost souls, and like these people who have like, they're on like autopilot. They don't have no zest. There's zeal for life and like this place. And so now we're here at the end of 2020, and some people are having to find and figure out, and they think like, oh, I can't. And so what do we do with that? We don't. That place is, now we need to get into identifying, okay, these are the things that happen to us. They don't make us. We still have purpose. How do you do that? You go back into the cycles. You retrace it. Right? So now, if we're talking about like a circle, it's always moving, right? Always evolving. Now I'm going back into my spark. What made me happy?
Right.
What were my goals this year? I'm going back into it. I'm writing it down again. Maybe I'm taking the same notebook I wrote in 2019 and I'm putting 2020 on the top of it. Like, scratch that. I got this again, right? Because if you're not gone and you still have another day, guess what? It's always another second chance, another opportunity, even a minute to say, all right, I need another spark, right? Because it's not over. And that forgiveness space is like, I forgive myself, because if you would have talked to me in March when I was losing all my clients, I was like, oh, this is not how this is supposed to go. I was just getting all the clients. I just got it here. I just did this, and what's happening? And this, that the defeat, I had to forgive myself for being down. Like, I forgive myself for sitting down for 2-3 months and saying I quit. Right? Because I could have been trying. I could have been doing more. I could have that beating, that like self-deprecation stage that people get in when they don't do their purpose. Right? They go to the lost souls place. Right? I can't. I didn't. I wasn't manifested enough. I just said I wanted to travel, but I never did the traveling. I ain't never gonna go. I didn't even purchase a passport. Right? Like, and then Facebook is telling me that like I should take my stimulus check and buy the passport. But what I'm going after the passport? Like. Right, like all voices in your head, right?
Balance.
Like, right, like so now I'm having to forgive myself. I forgive myself. I'm letting myself out of that. I'm accepting myself for who I am. I'm a person who needs to pout. I need to poke my lip out, sit on the floor, Indian style, and cry a little bit before I move to the next step. So now that I am free, now that I've accepted this place that I'm in, I need permission. I need to grant myself permission. It is okay to go back to a dream. It is okay to start over. It is okay to be 43 and want to go back to school. It is okay to have a degree in accounting and then go to school for social work and then go into work as public health. It is okay. And you have to allow yourself those spaces and opportunities, because if you go off a stigma or somebody else's purpose or somebody else's limitations through their own eyes, you will always be stifled. Right? Those educations that Sam received herself is like, she's using them. They didn't hurt her. Right. She's good. And so like, well, I can't ever do that. I can't. Well, I mean, I don't know if you still want to sell your mixtapes at at Walmart, but like, whatever, like go off. But the idea is that like, don't let anybody tell you. You have to grant yourself permission. That internal validation is a superpower.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
A superpower.
I think people got to be real with themselves too, though, right? And so what I'm hearing, I'm hearing a lot of messages, and what I've been kind of telling myself internally throughout the year is that you do get all these mixed messages about what you should do, what you should not do, and being intentional. And but at the end of the day, I think this balance, having balance, where you balance the messages in your life and how it resonates with you, and being open-minded, having balance, balancing the messages that you see in life and being intentional, I think will also help manifest your purpose, help it come to life, and help your purpose stay. And then sometimes when you're in that lull where, things aren't working out and you're like, oh, I can't do this, and this is like, does purpose come and speak to you in that moment? Like, is that purpose speaking to you, but in a reverse way to motivate you to do something else? And the idea of repurposing things, and that sometimes some things just don't serve you any purpose any longer, and so you have to move on. And I think in order to do that, you have to be open-minded, because when you're so focused on one thing, right, I've been working on these mixtapes, I'm gonna put this mixtape out, I'm gonna be a rapper, and then you die and you haven't put that mixtape out, or no one likes the mixtape, and you realize, wow, I've been so focused on this one thing, I didn't even realize that I was really good at this one thing, or this is really what my purpose is. And so be
instead of
be open-minded, be intentional, and balance the messages that you hear. Because at the end of the day, I mentioned, the idea of what narrative power means to me is that I'm the only one who's walked in my shoes. I'm the only individual with experiences that are unique to me in the way in which I've reacted to them, the people around around me. And so I can only speak from my perception of life and how I view certain things. And so for me, purpose is, it's mine and it's for me. But I'm open-minded because I can sit here with Whitney, with Sam and Cherie, and hear how they view it and how certain messages resonate with them. And I can take and give from every situation for what is best for me.
Can I add that also?
Yep.
During that space of it didn't work, there's a lot of learning right there. There's a whole lot of, let me figure out what life is trying to tell me. So COVID-19 told us, everybody, we need to be still. We need to be still and be thoughtful on how we spend our time and who we spend our time with, and what is meaningful to do and not to do. And a lot of people got really innovative in this time to say, if I no longer have this job, but I'm really good at this, you know what? I'm gonna start putting my energy in this. My mom, for instance, she was working at the nursing home, and she's Caribbean, so the one thing she said is like, Kobe not gonna kill me. So I was like, Mommy, first of all, that's not what it's called. But she was older, and she was like, I'm about to retire. I don't need to be in a nursing home. I'd rather just cut my losses, cut it now, and leave. And I was like, what are you gonna do now? She said, well, I can't cook. So I was like, okay, good. So my mom started.
Spoke to her.
Right.
She said she's been chefing it up ever since she was a kid. Everything delicious. So she started being more of a culinary person. But that whole experience says, okay, I gotta see, like, when I'm at my lowest, what else am I good at? But what is this moment trying to teach me? What am I trying to learn in the space? Because when stuff doesn't work out, it's like sometimes they call it the energy or God pushing you in another direction. He's trying to say, hey, stop doing that, stop doing it, go over here. Because I want to show you. And the one way I can show you is through failure. And failure is not, again, trying to figure out, not to internalize it too much, but see it as a life lesson, because we're all going through it. You know, we're all going through it.
I like the idea of, or not failure in itself, but like the idea of failure that brings you to the repurposed stage, right? I did not succeed or succeeded the way I wanted to in this idea of like linear, and that's why it's beautiful to change the straight line, right, to purpose to the circle, right? And so you've gotten to this space of like, I failed, and then so now I'm gonna go back into it, and you never really start over, right? Because I'm not 21 again, right, where I was starting out and doing this thing. I don't have to go back to school. The lessons I've learned and the things I've gained, the opportunities, and now I know. It's kind of like, now, okay, I'm going to do this again, and now I have a cheat book this time of like experience, exactly.
You have to live.
Right, that life experience. And so after you've granted yourself permission and you've got that internal validation, now what you say is, now I need to cement this. There's where the intentionality comes in. Here's where the manifestation comes in again. And I love the conversation Cherie brought up with Mary Jane. I'll tell you this, it's the same experience I had. I watched this black woman on TV. I said, look at her.
We all did, didn't we?
Look at her. And then she had the sticky notes everywhere. I promise you this. I was and I always say little black girl, because that's how I feel sometimes when I'm in these predominantly white spaces. I'm a little black girl. And all over my office, I got, everybody else's office is all nice and therapist-y, right? And my office is like littered, and you can do this. You are just as good as the other therapists. You are black girl magic. Like, I had to literally post these things all over my own office, and then the other therapist, oh, it's so cute. Yeah, it's because y'all, I gotta do this. No, I'm just kidding. But that affirmation is sometimes what we're saying is not going to be readily available to you. I am 31 years old. And I have been this way for a long time. Before I get to this space, that means 31 years of doing the same thing, right? And today, I decide I'm going to go into this, I listened to Queens today, and I'm going to make a change. And tomorrow, boom, I'm changed. And no. No. So giving yourself that space to be like, I can make mistakes. That's it. If I don't have that spark tomorrow, I'm gonna get it next week, and allowing yourself space to grow and do something different. And if you don't get it right tomorrow, the next day is here again, like I started off with. If you're not dead, there is another chance to continue whatever it is. So realign, regroup, repurpose, continue in the cycle, and pull up something. And the other part is like, the people who gave up their dreams, right? The people who said, oh, well, I can't have purpose because I had kids. My husband died. I didn't get into dentistry school. I don't know. Med school. I didn't, get the license. I've been trying and failed so many times. And like, permission says you can do something else, and that this thing that you really love, this spark, is not your only or sole purpose. If we can, I don't know how we're on time, but like, I love a conversation that we talked about last night, and we could all kind of chime in about it, was that I said that some purposes come easier than less, because it's like, well, what about this thing like talent versus, or like something that like we feel is innate versus something we have to work really, really hard at. And I was like, well, some people study for tests, right? And like some people just can read the book and be like, oh, got it. But that doesn't mean either one of them has a different purpose, right? We were talking, and I was saying, like, parenting, being a mom, is so innate and so easy to me, and so that, like, figuring the things out after just kind of lines up with it, right? And when you know your purpose, like, the pieces come together. And then Cherie brought in, you still manifest that. And I was like, what you talking about? And then Sam was like, well, you plan the birthday parties, don't you? And you buy the clothes, you feed them, right? Like, that's part of being a good parent. And I'm like, yeah, but that's easy. And it's so easy, and it's so, because I know my purpose. I brought these kids in, and I am so purposeful with them that the work doesn't seem like much, So the idea of like, you still have to, there's still some work that has to go into this. And I love that conversation, like, that you all brought in.
See, my way of parenting was the process. I loved hearing her, okay? But when she came, she literally changed my life path. And that was hard for me to adjust, because I saw myself in a different place, in a different space. I was very much Miss Independent. I left my career for a bit, just being Miss Military, and I was traveling. So it was kind of like, I'm living and I'm going towards that goal. And then when my daughter came, I had to stop and revisit a goal that I kind of had abandoned, which was becoming an attorney. And I'm like, okay, so everyone I go to, it's like, don't do it. Like, you'll just be miserable. I've met some miserable attorneys. Like, it was just like the life of God just drained out of them. And going into the court system, I was like, I was being intentional about it. I was like, I wanted that job. The job was very competitive. I prayed, and I told God, by this time this year, I want to be in that place. They called me back literally the last day, exactly a year to date, of when I did my 3-process interview. And I said, you know what? I had to speak that into my life, because it was an abandoned dream for me, because of I kept looking sideways rather than looking forward, rather than continuing to pursue my goal and my dreams, because I always wanted to be a little politician. I worked in politics. I already had the blueprint. I was there. I just didn't want to live in that lifestyle, because I got a taste of the nastiness of it. And I was like, I don't really want to bring my family into that, because I'd be such a workaholic that when do I have time to enjoy the things that I want? So, I had to go back to that spark. But that spark of law never left me. It kept visiting me in different transitions in my life. And to think I went to Westfield State going to be an international business major, took one poli-sci class and changed my whole life. And again, you can start off with wanting to do something, and because you are so intentional about your purpose and driving you to get there, you might meet your purpose in that same alley of you thinking that one thing was your purpose. So,
but you got to be open-minded. You have to be able to see that.
I was learning that.
You have to be able to see that.
I had to learn that. So let's have that conversation. Open-mindedness is a process.
Stay tuned for part 2.
I know. Open-mindedness is a process, because I think it's a new generation thing, because I come from an old school Caribbean family, and Jamaicans ain't open-minded. Let me be very frank. There is a certain thing
from your perspective.
From your perspective.
No,
Right, from your perspective.
I can say from my perspective, most Jamaicans, old school. I'm not talking about the new generation. Old school is very
#Jamaicans.
it's very like they're very narrow-minded about the way they look and view certain things, and it's just like. That's the way I was raised. That's the way I grew up
Old
thinking.
school people.
Yeah. But that's also breaking some of these generational
Cycles,
patterns
yeah.
that we're trying
Exactly.
to do. So
I still love y'all.
yeah. You Jamaica too. So for me, like, I was the planner of my pregnancy. I when I found out, which was unexpected, so I didn't plan that part. I said, okay, I don't have a degree. I need to go back to school. First kid said, okay, you got to get your bachelor's. Then I got pregnant the second time. Still didn't plan that part. You know, I'm a planner, but I'm still not that planful. The second kid said, you got to get your master's degree. And lo and behold, I can plan my third child, but if I do have one, I feel like a degree comes with every child. But it was because, like, to know, like, the struggle my parents came up from, to get to an equitable place, a place that I feel like I'm thriving, I can't be in the same place with them. So for them to have a head start, I had to have some sort of a head start. So for me, I was in if you have a child, you have another mouth to fill, you had to have that income, so therefore go back to school. It's a double-edged sword because even with school, there's the debt that you have to balance, but then the opportunity comes. And for me, like, I am open-minded to the exploration of stuff. I stayed in an organization for like 15 years. People thought I was like
Crazy.
Yeah. But that experience right there set me up for my next experience. Right. And doors opened up because I took advantage of every opportunity that my initial job gave me. They said, Sam, do you want to be a camp counselor? Sure. Do you want to lead camp counselor? Sure. Do you want to be assistant to the vice president of programs? I said, sure. And then he said, hey, do you want to be director of operations? He said, you think I could do that? I said, sure. Okay. And the next step was I was one step away from running the place, but someone else told me, like, hey, there's other opportunities out there. And then I took the other leap. But I always took it knowing that, at first I was nervous, I was scared. I didn't think I had doubt. But then I said I leaped fearfully. I still leaped blindly. I still leaped not knowing because I was still scared, but I leaped anyhow, Mm-hmm. So our purpose sometimes can trigger the opportunity to say, hey, let's just do it even though it scares us. Mm-hmm. Because it's the right thing to do. And once we get over the fear, then we realize, damn, we're really good at this. Mm-hmm. And what's to come. So,
all right.
Lo and behold, we kind of walk through this exploration of purpose with Nia, and that at any point you can explore her, find her, foster her. We created this awesome workbook that we have here that would allow you to kind of just do some exercises to kind of think about exploration, think about what you can do to manifest your purpose, setting goals for yourself. What's some healthy habits to keep these rituals in line? And when you are in a place of not knowing where to go, let's take this moment to reflect and journal and just write a letter of apology to yourself, write a letter of gratitude to yourself, and write a letter just letting you know that you are not just one thing, and if you have to find something else that you're good at, you can do that. Mm-hmm. So we'll have this workbook available for you on our Facebook page with links that you can either download it and or get a physical copy. But we want to, I think, wrap it up and say thank you to Tiffany. Thank you to Black and Brown
Thank you, Tiffany.
For having us, and I think for me, I'm going to reflect my gratitude to Tiffany. Tiffany is a visionary for our community. She's a change agent for our community. Like she said in the fashion show yesterday, her job is to bring great people together to do great things. And with that, for our community, purposefully for our community. And when we agitate each other and we start vibrating, guess what? We engage other people to help us with this workshop today. So we are channeling more Black and Brown folks to help us. So that's what we're trying to do, get that vibrations up so we can help others. Absolutely, and we can help our community to transform our works. But we are so happy to be here, and thank you for having us. And we look forward to the next pop-up, the next expo, the next anything in our community, because I know this is great for us.
Awesome.
All right.
Thank you guys.
Thank you. Spirit fingers.